Junior Executive by Hal Joseph. I'll read this quickly. This is long. Long before the notorious plane crash I caused, which resulted in the supposed death of former President George Vagoshnik, I was more than just an alleged presidential assassin. I was a junior executive. Allow me to introduce myself. My name, Roger Polstein. The position of junior executive, looking back, was quickly. This is long. Long before the notorious plane crash I caused, which resulted in the supposed death of former President George Vagoshnik, I was more than just an alleged presidential assassin. I was a junior executive. Allow me to introduce myself. My name, Roger Polstein. The position of junior executive, looking back, was fairly easy to come by. At the time, 10 years ago, I had been a much younger man with an intelligent demeanor, I thought, and sort of the youthful enthusiasm that scrutinizing employers like Nate Schofield are always looking for. Now, a full decade hence, I was returning to my old company, Sanchez Associates, in the same junior executive capacity, and was looking forward to the undertaking with both eagerness and a tad bit of trepidation. The fact that I had been recently been in the newspapers regarding my complete exoneration of the supposed or purported assassination of George Vagoshnik, U.S. President, who, by the way, was still alive, might ordinarily have deterred Sanchez Associates from rehiring me as a junior executive who had hoped to be a senior executive one day. Never did acquire that stature. But when I had raised the issue with my temporary agency, Contemps, rhyming with contempt, through which Sanchez Associates was temporarily hiring me through the outsourcing phenomenon of the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I was told that my notoriety was a non-issue. No one there really cared about my being a purported assassin or alleged assassin. Perhaps that was because Sanchez Associates happens to be the largest pharmaceutical company in Southern California, specializing in Restafugo, the latest in designer suicide pills. At $2,000 a tablet, it only takes one to do the job, and a rock-solid contract predicated on your physicians granting a clean bill of mental health before you get one, or prescription for one. You can painlessly enter the hereafter with a $1 million indemnification against the pill's failure to deliver a quick, easy, and even enjoyable death. And speaking of indemnification, do you remember that old movie called Double Indemnity with Fred McMurray? An insurance scam to make some money. Well, Fred McMurray was in this old 60s TV show called My Three Sons. The butler, the live-in housekeeper, and butler was a guy named, real name, William Demarest. And I have been trying to write the William Demarest biography. I've actually been called by a few of my friends, hey, you're just like that butler on My Three Sons. You do chore for people. You do their laundry. You give them chips and buy things for them. Even in your fraternity, you used to go up to the co-op up on Levering to buy candy for your roommates and fraternity brothers, and even the guys that were younger. You're just a gopher, man. You're William Demarest. Me and Jim Demarest from my high school days, and who was an independent, GDI, goddamn independent, at the dorms, while I was a fraternity brother, and then living on Levering apartments on Levering Street, just near LeConte, near the Westwood Village. Jim Demarest used to come over to my apartment even when I was doing drugs. He was always forgiving. He was a golf buddy of mine, and Los Verdes, the public golf course here, what was earlier called Palos Verdes Peninsula, now Rancho Palos Verdes. Bruce Springsteen, the boss, has I call it a compound up there. Barbara Streisand has a place up there. I'm sure there's some other. There's the Donald Trump golf course there, the Terranea Resort, where my mother and brother once had lunch with me. I believe her stockbroker there. Hello, Silvana. UBS, by the way, United Bank of Switzerland. I had a small account portfolio there. I pissed it away inside 2 years. I had 14 credit cards, did a fraudulent type thing, going into debt in excess of $250,000. I'll pay it back one of these. It was forgiven, bro. Those were the days of George Bush Jr. He had a football team. All the credit card type access was relaxed. I would call the Philippines. And by the way, Nicole was to remember my Kai Beagle? So I would call the Philippines, tell them I was a psychopharmacologist making in excess of $200,000 a month, and get a twin Disney world-class gold credit cards for me and my then gal pal, or sort of common-law wife, Melly, $30,000 limit each card, a joint account. Yeah, we lived it up. The junior executive. Continuing. So, you can painlessly enter the hereafter with a $1 million indemnification against the pill's failure to deliver a quick, easy, and even enjoyable death. Inadvertently, suicide. You don't have to do fentanyl to try to get high or mix it with meth. Dabbling and experimenting, risky if you want to end it all. Rest if you go, one pill, you're gone, or you don't need to run refills. You don't have to get one prescription, or even over the counter at the barber shop after you get a haircut. Hey, here's the rest of you. You got a few hundred. Yeah, here you go. Cereal population growth. You read The Consumer. That's the answer to that. Inadvertently, I've gotten, and no more than I'm going to read this straight from the script. I don't have much more time. I'm going to die pretty soon. Inadvertently, I got the ball rolling a week ago with an innocent phone call to Lonnie, my former colleague in the Meta Administration Department at Sanchez Associates. Lonnie, I said, that night, having telephoned her in her Northridge, California apartment. How's everything at the office? I saw in the news that Sanchez Associates is starting to successfully market Rest If You Go, the suicide pill, to the upper middle class. Well, suicide has become a valuable commodity, Roger, responded Lonnie matter-of-factly. Then, in a conspiratorial undertone, added, I'm glad you called. One of our junior executives, this kind of loser, has just gone out on short-term mental disability due to on-the-job stress. Why don't you give Mr. Schofield a call to see if you can fill in for a while? We need somebody like you who knows the job and doesn't require a lot of training. I don't know, Lonnie, I said falteringly. Do you think Mr. Schofield would want me back after the god-awful way I left the company? What god-awful way? I reminded Lonnie that, quote, I failed to show up at my own going-away party. I think that's disgraceful. Well, who the heck cares? Declared Lonnie, adamantly. That was 10 years ago. Look it, I want you to call Mr. Schofield Monday morning, bright and early, and put out a feeler. It could be your ticket back into the company. Heeding Lonnie's advice and cognizant of my own desire to return to Sanchez Associates in Southern California, I went to bed the next night, Sunday night, with the full intention of phoning my former boss, Mr. Nathan Schofield, or Nate, early Monday morning, but unfortunately, I didn't get a wink of sleep. So fearful was I of the upcoming phone call to Schofield, which I presumed would involve a measure of groveling on my part that all I could manage was to toss and turn throughout the night. I discovered Monday morning when Mr. Schofield's uncompromising secretary assured me that it was unnecessary for me to talk directly to the boss in order to be considered for the temporary position of junior executive at Sanchez Associates in Canoga Park, California, corporate headquarters. But I want to tender an apology to Mr. Schofield. I protested over the phone at one point for not attending my own going away party before leaving the company in disgrace 10 years ago. I'll make sure to give him that message, said the matronly sounding secretary, who went on to tell me that Sanchez Associates required my executive services immediately in the Meta Administration Department. And if they did, they would contact me through Chuck at my representative temporary agency, Contemps, formerly known as Bright Futures, or what I call Bleak Futures. Sure enough, Wednesday, I received a phone call from Chuck, the payroll clerk at Contemps, announcing my junior executive assignment to begin the following Monday. Report to work at 8 sharp, he said. The no-nonsense payroll clerk and notorious scumbag degenerate Chuck Coachella, Pete's brother, and be prepared to stay with the company for an indefinite time period. What about my pay rate? I inquired. Same as before. You mean, I stammered, I'll be making the same salary I made 10 years ago, a decade ago? I was incredulous. Affirmative, said Chuck levelly, and twice as hard. Got it? All right, Chuck, I groaned and rang off. Although I was nonplussed regarding my monetary remuneration, I was nevertheless determined to return to my old employer, Sanchez Associates. In the general sense, I liked their products, and in a more specific sense, I was firmly behind the concept of a designer suicide pill like Rest, having been a close friend of Douglas Vincent, the consumer and executive director of Extinction Enterprises, LLC nonprofit. Who's one of his best friends is a guy named Blaise Montaigne of the Office of Americas, a friend of Ed Asner, former Mary Tyler Moore, Luke Grant, the Minnesota or Minneapolis television news program. Do you remember Ted, the news anchorman, Ted Knight, or Marie Slaughter, played by he went on to be the Love Boat captain. What's his real name? The bald guy. And of course, there's Lauren Tu is the one of the hostesses on the boat. Remember that perky little Lauren Tu's Gopher, the purser, young white happy-go-lucky guy, and all those great guest stars. Shout out to, by the way, to my old friend, the lawyer, at Hennessy's in Riviera Village, Redondo Beach, the karaoke night with Leslie on Sunday night. Leslie the KJ, I can't remember his name. He was a lawyer. They used to do the Love Boat theme every time he went up to sing a song. Great singer. They even made a tape recording and turned it into a demo CD of his music. Great singer. He did songs by America, Neil Young. He had a gastric bypass and lost a lot of weight. It worked. So, all right, Chuck, I groaned and rang off. Although I was nonplussed regarding my low-paying monetary remuneration, I was nevertheless determined to my old employer. In the general sense, I liked their products, and in a more specific sense, I was firmly behind the concept of the designer suicide pill like Rest-A-Fugo, one of its kind, cutting edge. On yet another level, I knew that something of my murky past in Sanchez Associates and my mental illness remained to be delved into. So, food for thought, grounds for further research. I mused then about how all life's irritants could be sidestepped by carefully and thoughtfully ending one's own existence vis-a-vis rest of fugo. No more rush hour traffic, no more headaches, ailments, or disease. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, Blah, Blah, Blah is a good Iggy Pop album. Remember Iggy Pop? Still around? Monday, having skipped coffee and breakfast so I wouldn't have to use the bathroom excessively until later in the morning, I arrived at the downtown Meta Administration Building of Sanchez Associates in the San Fernando enclave of Canoga Park, California, right on time, dressed in my usual business attire, cuffed poplin trousers of banana yellow, which were flared at the bottom, not quite bell bottoms, matching double-breasted leisure sport coat with billowy sleeves and extra wide lapels, white dress shirt by Jeffrey Bean with a radical left-wing spread collar, brown polka dot shorty necktie, and Andy Kaufman brown on beige saddle shoes. At the high security reception desk, I was saluted by the portly Pinkerton guard who, after a thorough pat-down, issued me a temporary badge. His name was Steve, and he drove a tiny Ford, was it a Fiesta? This guy was big, about 5'9", at least 270 pounds. Pointing off to my left, the guard said, "Looky there, Mr. Paulstein." I turned around, did a 180, and a banner had been hung on the wall, black letters on a white background, made of some sort of cloth, spoken commemorating my return in big block letters. "Welcome back to Sanchez Associates, Mr. Roger B. Paulstein." That's my middle initial. Roger B. Paulstein. "We missed you, Mr. Paulstein," said the familiar-looking, rotund guard with an infectious smile. I searched my memory, finally retrieving the guard's widely used nickname for Steve. "Thank you, Fatso." At that, the guard frowned, signifying my irrevocable faux pas. Presently, from the neighboring Human Resources office, a big-boned, bespectacled businesswoman materialized, wearing blonde pigtails. She reached to shake my hand, employing a mighty death grip. Then, in a clipped, truncated Hungarian accent, said, "I am Miss Kimberlane. Follow me to the second-floor atrium, where I administer your drug test." The foreign-born functionary fixed me with a sidelong glance as we ascended the staircase. "You take the marijuana or the cocaine lately?" "Oh, well, not lately, dearie," I quipped, my borderline humor eluding her. She was all business. At the second-floor landing, we proceeded past the atrium with its green indoor shrubbery and arrived at the clear plexiglass-walled bathroom, exposed to all onlookers, where I would have to evacuate my bladder. Big up to a mighty embarrassing. Miss Kimberlin proffered a clear plastic jar with blue screw lid, and nodding indicated the transparent bathroom nearby. "You pee in jar now. Do a clean catch." Sitting on the American Standard industrial toilet, it's a brand, American Standard, pants down around my ankles, urine jar positioned accordingly, I waited patiently for something like urine to come out, while simultaneously a built-in speaker box, video cameras, and brought to me the observations of those in the office who were watching. "Roger sure is taking a long time to perform his urine test," I heard and saw one female onlooker comment to Don Lonnie, who had first advised me to apply for the position of junior executive uh, less than 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. They were both watching from Melania's viewpoint desk. I tried without success to return Lonnie's wave, instead breaking out into a profuse flop sweat when a trickle of urine found its way into the jar. It's green, blue, brown, and it had some mucus in it, possibly a little discharge from a recent venereal disease. Don't tell Mom how I got a VD. Dad warned me, and when I was 13, he told me about the birds and the bees. Watch out for VD. As Robert Elliott, that's Dad, formerly Korean War Army Staff Sergeant, Signal Corps veteran, born in Ottumwa, Iowa, went to Ames, Iowa State University, where good Willard Bullfinch is from, my best friend. Hey, Willard, a.k.a. Joey, who was on the golf team, by the way, as a Frosh Soft golf player. Actually told me he shot an 81 once. I believe that was his best score. Not bad. That's good golf. As heard through the speaker box, people were laughing uproariously while watching me take my urine test at the humiliated, perspiring spectacle that was yours truly, Roger B. Paulstein. Upon completion of my test, I exited the bathroom, handing the Hungarian Miss Kimberlane my urine bottle, in exchange for which I received a blank time card to be filled out at the end of the week in compliance with the voluminous time card Bible, which could be perused in the reference library on the third floor. And allude to the technical librarian, a library clerk, who after Sanchez Associates folded in the late 90s, or was it early 2000s, went to Bakersfield to work with Terry Baker, by the way, a mailroom guy, to work for Amgen Company. So, gone were the days, I realized, of simply logging one's weekly hours on an easy-to-use blue time card about the size of not a dollar bill or 20, but something about slightly longer, maybe about a quarter-inch taller, a card, kind of a thick, liquid cardboard, a time card, like a card that you can do a punch clock on, but you have to write in your hours, the overhead code, or a charging to a department, or a science project, or my editor, good old Michael Hawkins, used to say when I was filling out my time card, at Sanchez Associates, Roger, are you writing the the great American novel there? Is that a work of fiction? Hey, Michael. Got fired for selling cheap airline tickets out of his office. And I made him put his office, his personal effects in a cardboard box and escort him off the property. I got laid off before he did. Fired, basically. Suspected of being a communist. I'm a Trotskyist. Never voted in my life. Give me an issue, I'll give you a tissue. Fuck politics. Now, the time cards used to get signed by one's boss at the end of each week. Copious coding of one's hour-to-hour business, including bathroom breaks, multi-digit cost account numbers, and standard overhead applique, was now mandatory at Sanchez Associates, who, as a corporate entity, would not hesitate to fire any employee that consistently turned in erroneous time cards. Wet with perspiration, I returned nearby staircase to the ground floor, where I handily located the private men's room, entered, disrobed, took a bird bath shower. Once again dressed, I set out to find my former boss, Mr. Nate Schofield, who presided over the entire second floor, the hub of the Meta Administration Department, and whom I hadn't laid eyes on in over 10 years. Soon, Mr. Schofield's mandatory secretary was escorting me to Julio Sanchez's desk, the guy on disability, where I would be stationed. Sanchez being out in the absentee out on short-term mental disability, whose position I was to fill, and not so coincidentally, son of Juan Sanchez, company CEO and co-owner of Sanchez Associates, which used to be called Sandoz Pharmaceuticals. By the way, the original pharmaceutical company from Nazi Germany, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, it was called IG Farben. I got that from a late night KPFK 90.7 so-called conspiracy dude. Music to listen to once in a while. I even saw him in person once with my old friend Bob Cunningham, Unitarian life church minister, lay minister. Get married. I almost got married once. I had him do the officiate, but something happened. She left me at the altar. We got our second date. So I sat down at the desk and stared blankly at the dormant computer terminal in my closet-like office, which, as always, I had no desire to turn on, boot up, let alone familiarize myself with. We had a Macintosh PC computers, not with the internet, so to speak, but with Microsoft Mail, which only went to other Sanchez Associate sites in Southern California and Arizona and other states, and all of them. Here I saw the 7-foot-tall, old beyond his years, corporate yes man, Nate Schofield, accompanied by Lonnie, his secretary. They were on hand to greet me after 10 years. I stood to shake hands with first Nate Schofield, whose imposing height dwarfed me, and then with Lonnie, of average height. Parenthetically. Welcome back to the Meta Administration, said Mr. Schofield in a mirthful yet cynical baritone. It's been a long 10 years, I remarked, adopting my usual boyish deferral. Lonnie bobbed her head in agreement. Mr. Schofield swept a hand through his sparse gray hair. Sorry about the way drug test procedures. He apologized. I shrugged. And I'm sorry about the way I no-showed for my going-away party 10 years ago. I thought I had burned my bridges by doing that. You had burned your bridges, admitted Mr. Nate Schofield. But when I read in the papers about your ordeal with the former president, George Goshny, and how he tried to murder you, and not the other way around, I renewed my faith in you. Oh, yeah, I just missed that. Out of hand. What about this Julio Sanchez guy? I asked, getting down to business. I conveyed Sanchez's small desk and stool that kind of revolved around with an obtuse hand flourish. What happened to him that necessitated my entering the picture at this point? Or the big picture. Develop that job. Now, it was Lonnie's turn to speak. Sanchez was your basic loser, two-bit ne'er-do-well. Once the designer suicide pill Restifugo became Sanchez's #1 product, Julio went paranoid on us. He started singing Head Shrinker or Skull Jockey, and ultimately entered a nut bin on a voluntary basis. You know the one right across the street. Safety net. Julio Sanchez didn't know how to change with the times and interjected Nate Nate Schofield, rubbing his Wisconsin lumberjack chin. Besides which, and this is not just speculation or conjecture on my part, Julio Sanchez wanted to be declared mentally unfit so that indeed, if he were of a mind to purchase and ingest Restifugo, he wouldn't meet the contractual mental health clause that must be fulfilled antecedent to partaking of this drug. Talk about being careful to the point of absurdity, I editorialized. Going on company line. It's merely lip service. Is there an Elvis Costello song called Lip Service? Neurosis incarnate, concurred Alani, eliciting a chuckle on the part of Nate Schofield, and then, by degrees, myself as well. Once Julio Sanchez returns to work, I feared and suppositioned, having been released from the hospital at deemed normal, he'll be back where he started, taking my place, of course. That is, he'll be susceptible all over again to the prospect of acquiring Restifugo on an impulsive whim, if he felt like it, rendering his theretofore precautionary measures obsolete. Is the man so unsure of his emotional countenance and mental state or comportment that he'd pursue a course of action and short-term mental disability which would either prevent him from returning to work altogether or jeopardize his life once more if he did return to work under the CEO, his dad, Juan Sanchez? Nate Schofield grinned in his corporate yes-man fashion and slapped me on the shoulder roundly. I see you're strung out haywire, verbose, and dope-addled line of BS is as lengthy as ever, Roger. Us junior execs have to try harder, I pointed out jovially and jocosely. To Lonnie, Nate Schofield, covering his mouth with one hand, said, "You can go back to your desk now. I'll apprise Roger of the work situation at hand." On Lonnie's departure, Nate Schofield motioned for me to sit while he, standing tall, delivered a short orientation. Sit down, why don't you? You'll remember, Roger, that Meta Administration is a department that formulates administrative policy with regard to new pharmaceutical products. You remember Sycofugo, don't you, that pilot program? Now, before we began to successfully market Restifugo to the public, Meta Administration dictated policy and the original boilerplate prospectus on the in-house pilot program where we gave employees the chance to test Restifugo, the designer suicide pill, at absolutely no cost to them. Imagine that $2,000 value. The cost, except for their lives, I put in sardonically. Yes, admitted Nate Schofield, but again, consider the $2,000 value with a money-back guarantee. I cogitated at length. Would I be correct in assuming that the Restifugo pilot program borrowed a portion of the same policy prospectus used 10 years ago in the Sycofugo pilot program that I myself participated in before I got laid off? As my boss nodded yes, I harkened back to the time, long ago, when Sanchez Associates had developed a drug called Sycofugo that made one legally sick enough to take a sick day from work or for a week or maybe more and have fun and accrue sick pay, but physically well enough to enjoy that time off. After the kinks and side effects, which I suffered from, were ironed out at the expense of those in the pilot program, unfortunately, Sycofugo became marketable and to an extent was an actual precursor to the ultimate sick day, now offered by Restifugo. And as it came to me now, albeit dim memory, the Centrifugal pilot program in which I had participated had more than a little to do with my leaving the company, not to mention why I had failed to attend my going away party at that long time ago, but I wouldn't put the two together until later. But I wouldn't put two and two together until later. For your first week back on the job, Nate Schofield was saying, we'd like you to process all paperwork that comes through this department, my department. By that I mean checking to make sure that signatures have been applied to signature lines, boxes have been filled out where necessary, names, address, purchase order numbers, and the like, so to speak, and they are all in order. If you find a discrepancy, flag it and reroute the hard copy to the particular file on the bottom file of the file cabinet in Rodney Smith, our contract negotiator's office. Nobody ever enters. So, if you find a discrepancy, flag it. Later, when you get more comfortable, I may have you generate a memorandum or two. Don't panic if there's not much paper traffic on your desk until after lunch. Nate Schofield winked at me, adding, now I'm off to a meeting in the advertising department with that fetching Inger Fondraset, now head of advertising. Now, remember she used to be in the HR Human Resources office? Oh, yes, I do. As the morning wore on and a few items found their way into my in-basket for review, the job of junior executive wafted to the forefront of my consciousness. A junior executive, I realized, working at Sanchez Associates, took care of the minuscule check work that none of the senior execs would even bother with if it weren't for the fact that the corporation had enough money to hire junior executives to do that sort of thing. Checking boxes, signature lines, and purchase order blanks had been the meat and potatoes of my trade before I'd been let go and had gone on to become a philanthropist or psychophilanthropist for the so-called peace movement. However, there had always been a few special moments of glory when I would be asked to compose a memo regarding administrative policy, thereby enabling me to demonstrate my intellect and creativity, such as it was, is, and perhaps later I had hoped, with enough memos, memorandums, notes, Microsoft Mail, DL list disseminations under my belt, I could vie for a senior executive position. But those days had ended 10 years ago with my ungodly termination from the company under still murky circumstances. The Junior Executive, Part 2. And now continuing with the Junior Executive. And that's where we're going to have to end. We'll be continuing with the Junior Executive next time with the conclusion. I'm sorry about that.